We are back. Yes. Good afternoon.
All right. Yep. Now we're live.
Now we're live. Okay. We are back. The COVID313 Community Coalition for Families and Students. We are delighted to be back in this space, talking to you families, bringing you all the time information that empowers you to keep your family safe, healthy, educated, understanding the issues that we need to create the change that we need, and so importantly, connecting you to basic resources from phenomenal leaders and people and parents right in our own community. And joining me in this space, as always, are some of our other great co-moderators. And for those of you who not tuned in before, this is a particular welcome to you. My name is Jametta Lilly, and I'm so blessed to serve as the CEO of the Detroitparent Network. And I'm a proud member from the very beginning. Larry, can you believe it, Reverend Larry? We've been at this 2.5 years.
Can you believe
it? So that's my welcome, and I am welcoming my partner in wonderful, good, uplifting, encouraging change, Reverend Larry Simmons.
Good morning, everybody. We're back, and we are glad, ecstatic to be with you. We're going to be with you once a month now. And we want to make these moments really significant and impactful for you. We have a phenomenal presentation series of presenters today, from the elections to the schools, which we know both of them are timely. We look forward to your questions. Jametta, why don't you help the people figure out where it is they can send those questions when they have them, and talk about the fact that we provide translations.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that is a really important principle is that trusted messengers matter and two-way communication matters. So yes. We've strived to do that. So we are pleased to be able to have translation services both in Spanish as well as ESL. And we're hoping that our team for that can join us really quickly. But before we switch to it, just a couple other things. We would love to hear from you right now. So put in the chat, tell us where you're joining us from. Whether you are on the east side, west side, downtown, E-course, or for that matter, maybe Alpena.
West side, east side.
Yeah, right, the mitten, right? So no matter where you are, what our conversations matter. So if you have a question, please put those in the chat. And if you're checking us out through Facebook, you can make comments, because some of our awesome collaborative team that's part of our 313 production will grab that information and share that back with us. So as Reverend Larry has said, once we start with our really significant and important partners who are presenting, we want to hear your questions. Put those in the chat, send those comments, and we're going to do our best to make sure that they get in on that segment. But if not, then we'll be following back up with you. So I want to hit pause for a moment, and I'd like to be able to introduce one of our phenomenal and ongoing translators, and that's Cristina Guzman. Welcome, Cristina.
Thank you. Buenos días a todos. Si quieren escuchar el programa en español, por favor vayan al Facebook de UNI, que lo tienen en vivo, o el chat. En el chat está el enlace para escuchar en español. Gracias. Thank you.
Gracias. Just one other note before we get started, and that's to our presenters. Thank you for carving out time to be with us today. But we want you to please remember to speak slowly so that our translator can make sure that everyone has the opportunity to hear the important information that you are going to share. We also want to make sure that hopefully presenters and others, as you're out there, we all know everybody can multitask. So put this out on your organization's Facebook, share this information, and presenters, as you come on, then make sure, if you would, to have your microphone off and your video off until it's time for your segment. Either Reverend Larry or myself will tune you in to that segment. So with that, that's a little bit of the logistics, because, logistics matter to do productions like this, don't they? So I'm going to kick it back to you, Reverend Larry, because we have what everyone to know. We focus in on health. We focus in on education. We focus in on basic needs and really important social justice. So we're going to be talking about our health because we are still in COVID. Let's not be mistaken. Yes, and we need to hear what's going on with our children. So we have leaders from Dr. Vitti, and then we have the COO from University Prep, because we got to make sure that we're talking about all schools and all kids. And of course that we have our health department, and we're going to be talking about getting out the vote. So with that, I'm going to lean back and let you take it from there, because I'm really interested in hearing this new segment and one of our own, Brooke Franklin, to take us forward as well with you. And of course, you're on mute.
Of course I'm on mute. It's Zoom, and it's our first time back in months. So, you know, it is really, really, really important for you to understand that we are parents and grandparents, just like you who are listening. We are confronted with the same challenges and the same frustrations and the same multitasking. And we had heard a story earlier this week from our partner, Brooke, and she was telling us about what was happening with her child, her son. Brooke is going to introduce the next segment because it's her personal story that explains why we take the time to do this every month, to make sure you have the best
presentaciones cada mes para que ustedes
of your children. Brooke, come on and tell the folks what happened with you, and then introduce our health leaders.
dinos qué pasó contigo y con tu hija.
Hi, yes, sorry, there is a little technical difficulties going on. But yeah, thank you guys for having me today. I'm here to share a little bit of what our experience was within the last week or so. So my son, he just started preschool. So I'm a proud mother of a 4-year-old little boy. And, you know, school started maybe 2 weeks ago. And, you know, a lot of mask wearing has been stopped across schools. And, you know, he picked up a cold right away, runny nose, congestion. He was a little like sleepy, wasn't too interested in playing. And I was like, oh, it's probably just allergies. But then it extended, you know, 2-3 days. I'm like, oh, I don't think it's allergies. And it wasn't until I started noticing that, you know, this is going on for a little bit longer than normal. But right now, with the change of weather, with kids going back to school, there's all these viruses, bugs floating around. And it's hard to decipher, you know, what is it? Is it allergies? Is it COVID? Is it the flu? Is it, you know, just the common cold? But things took a turn over the weekend when I put him down for bed, I noticed that he was having trouble breathing. He was doing a lot of shallow, rapid breathing. And so I wasn't going to wait around any longer. And I rushed him to the ER. When we got to the ER, they checked him out. They were like, his oxygen levels were a little lower than normal. And so they admitted him. And so unfortunately for my son, they had to do COVID tests, flu tests, a strep test where like they swabbed the back of his throat. And long behold, my son tested positive for strep throat. Luckily, the doctors were able to help him. They gave him breathing treatments. They gave him antibiotics. And, you know, we hung out for a while there. And I'm glad to say that I think we're seeing the end of it. He's looking a lot better. He's still a little tired, but the doctor said that this was pretty normal.
You're muted, Brooke.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, so as I said, my son, we're seeing the end of it. He's doing a lot better. Still a little tired, so he's catching up on some well-needed rest, getting all those extra cuddles in. And so I want to talk to Dr. Valbuena today from CHAS to see, you know, what are you seeing in your clinic? What is going on? It seems like every day there's a new virus, there's a new cold going around. So yeah, just lay it on us, Dr. Valbuena. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be with you today. I would start by saying that COVID is still with us. COVID will be with us for a good while. And we are managing COVID along with everything else that we take care of: chronic disease, preventive care, strep throats, flu, the things that we've always dealt with. And now with the ongoing experience and knowledge that we have on COVID, we continue to test, and we continue to vaccinate, and we continue to monitor the COVID spread, the COVID presence among us. And, we'll continue to make adjustments as information becomes available. But I can tell you that COVID is very much still with us, even though obviously we're not experiencing what we were experiencing back in 2020. But we continue to test, we continue to vaccinate, and are looking forward to continuing to provide comprehensive care, health and wellness care to the community.
Thank you, Dr. Valbuena. Could you share with us what the recent updates are with vaccines? Who qualifies for boosters? When should you get a booster? Things of that sort.
Yeah, that's getting more and more complicated. The easiest way to understand it is anybody that's 6 months of age or older should be getting vaccinated. So there is the original vaccines that came out that have one variant in them that we're using, and now more recently there is a bivalent booster that's available. So that has two variants in it that we're starting to use for individuals that are 12 years of age and older. Those that are 6 months through 11 years use a different one. It gets kind of complicated because of the different vaccines available for the different age groups, as well as now the new booster that's available. So the ideal situation is for you to reach out to your established primary care provider, let them know that you're interested in getting vaccinated. And then based on the ages of the individuals in your family that are going to get vaccinated, we can recommend what the ideal either primary series, booster series, or booster dose would be in order. But we continue to message that we want individuals to continue to get vaccinated. It's going to be similar to, and is getting more and more similar to, the way that we manage influenza or flu with a booster every year. We're just working to make sure that we're getting the right variants and the right vaccine content so that the protection lasts through a longer period of time. Because currently we're still seeing that about 3, 4, maybe 5 months in certain individuals, the effect starts to wear off, and then we recommend that next booster. But the short answer is 6 months of age or older should be getting vaccinated. Reach out to your primary care provider. You can reach out to us at CHAS. We have all the vaccines for all the ages, including the new booster, and we will make sure that you're brought up to date on your vaccines, just like other vaccines that we get when we're children or adults.
Thank you. So I want to take this time right now to also acknowledge and welcome the Detroit Health Department. May their representatives step forward and introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Katina Hogan. I'm one of the public health nurses at the Detroit Health Department. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So I do have a series of questions that I will be asking Dr. Valbuena and Ms. Katina Hogan. So in your eyes, what is your definition, or what is the difference between a pandemic and an endemic for our viewers? These words are thrown around every day, and sometimes regular our residents aren't fully aware what that means. So could you guys explain that for us? Dr. Valbuena, you are muted.
I am sorry about that. We know that a pandemic is an illness that's causing widespread disruption, a lot of illness, a lot of hardship. You can go back to 2020 and that would be the classic definition of what a pandemic is. As the disease becomes more, let's say, stable and manageable, not disappears, but becomes more stable and more manageable, then we say that translates into the definition of endemic. If you ask experts today about COVID-19, there will be some that say still a pandemic, some that will say it is endemic now. And I think that the distinction, there isn't a set line today or at this moment it's a pandemic, and then the next hour or the next day it's now endemic. It's a process. And because we're talking about the world, it's very difficult to draw a line and say we're now pandemic, currently pandemic, or now we're endemic. We are moving towards a more stable and manageable time in this disease that we know as COVID-19, but we're still seeing cases. People are still dying from it, and we have nationwide over 70% of individuals, over 75%, I believe now, of individuals vaccinated. But I think that there isn't a clear line, there isn't a clear distinction, or clear definition that we can draw for any illness, but for COVID-19, that today it's a pandemic and tomorrow it's now endemic.
Thank you, Dr. Valbuena. My next question is for the Detroit Health Department. What are you guys seeing right now with COVID cases? Is there, what levels are we facing right now? Are you able to provide any update on the number of cases that we're experiencing?
I did bring slides. If you want to pop the slides up, I can kind of go over what our current situation is.
Okay,
right.
I believe they are up.
Okay, thank you. Our current situation, Detroit, as of September the 21st, we've had 149,209 confirmed cases. That's like from the beginning till now where we are. And as far as deaths, we have 3,839. Michigan as a whole, we're at 19.1%, and Detroit is at 15%. And what does all of that mean? They take a sample of the population of 100,000 people, and the ones that come up positive from a week span, like from September the 19th to the 15th, and that's how they come up with the percentage. And to kind of to give you an idea, like St. Clair Shores is at 22.4, so they got about 225 cases they're seeing a week. Whereas Detroit, I believe we're around like 150 or 160, and it has been fluctuating. Because like when it was really, really bad, we might have been at 30%. Whereas like St. Clair Shores, they're climbing a little bit because 225 cases. Whenever you go over 100 cases per week, then they're saying we're at high transmission. And what that means is if you're in a large crowd, there's the possibility, if you don't have a mask on, that you could possibly pick up COVID from other individuals that may be in that crowd.
Thank you.
If you just answer the question or go through the slides, it's up to you.
You can go. You can present your presentation.
Well, it's up to you. I can accommodate whatever. This is my first time on here. Thank you for everybody. But going forward, then I'll find out. If you want a question to answer, then I can give information just like the doctor's doing it also. The next slide is just it gives a percentage of how many people in our city as a whole from all ages that's had the vaccine. So we're at 47.6, about 50%. We encourage each community to try to be above 70. And some of the stuff Dr. already went over, because if more people above 70, then that kind of prevents the virus from continuing to mutate. Because if all of us is at 70%, we can still contract it, but it may not live as long because our bodies are reacting faster because we do have the vaccine in our system, and we know when once we come in contact with the virus that our immune system will kick in and immediately start to fight, and also to help prevent us from being, like you said, in the hospital or an event or even experiencing death. Next slide, please. This is one of the new boosters we have, the Bivalent, which is for 12 years and older. It is Pfizer and Moderna that both have these two vaccines. What's different from this vaccine from the other ones, this one also has can fight against the Omicron, the ones we're seeing like the BA4 or the BA5. This one is also one that you can take with any of the other vaccines. So, but in addition to that, you'll be able to fight some of the new variants that we're seeing now today. Next slide. Oh, and just in case, if you had the booster, another shot before, you have to wait at least 2 months. And then this one is some of this information you may already know, that the vaccines are being offered from 6 months to 5 years old. The Moderna 6 months to 5, there's a 2-shot series. The 2 doses are 4 weeks apart. And there's also the Pfizer 6 months to 4 years old. There's a 3-shot series, and there's 2 doses that are 3 weeks apart, and then there's followed by a third 2 months apart. And at this time, we don't have a booster for that. And then you can always call the Detroit Health Department at 313-230-0505, hit option 1, and you can make an appointment. And we also have the COVID hotline. You can always dial 313-876-4444. And then if you have additional questions and they don't get answered here, you can always hit option 2 on that line, and you can reach myself or someone else can answer your questions if you need more time than what we can provide on this call. Next slide.
I'm so sorry, but we are running low on time. So I wanted to thank you for that wonderful presentation. If viewers are interested in seeing more of these slides, it will be dropped in the chat, so keep an eye out for that. Whereas, like Ms. Katina said, you can always call the Detroit Health Department to have your questions answered. So the last 2 questions we have for both of you are, how can we stay healthy during these trying times? How can we strengthen our immune system and just keep each other safe, keep our children safe, and ultimately keep our community safe?
Okay, I'll go first because he may have a longer answer. My answer, I always say at the end, we have tools. So you have to keep using your tools. What are your tools? If you are in a large group and you're indoors or you're really close to people and you have no idea if they have COVID or not, you wear a mask. You want to keep washing your hands, and if you can distance yourself. And we always recommending the vaccine and the boosters, which these are your tools. And that's all I have. Just keep using the tools some of the tools that we've been saying over and over and over again.
Thank you so much.
The only thing I would add,
yes,
the only thing that I would add is, we need to really work hard to make the changes that we have been taught all along of, let's try and eat as healthy as we can. Let's try and exercise as much as we can. Let's try and make sure that, we're using appropriate hygiene and things that I think are important to manage just our health and wellness in general, and not necessarily specific to COVID-19, but also applied to COVID-19. And even though all of those guidelines are now relaxed, if I'm in a setting where I'm indoors and I'm with a large group of people, I'm still wearing my mask. The main symptoms of the new variants are the runny nose and with this changing climate here in Michigan, could be allergies, could be just regular cold, could be the flu, because we're heading into that season. So we need to be conscious of the ongoing COVID-19 illness as well as others, and just be safe in all things that we do, so that we can stay healthy and continue to do everything that we have set to do during our daily lives.
Thank you so much, both Dr. Valbuena and Katina from the Detroit Health Department. I will now pass it on to Janetta.
Hey, and before I kick it to you, Larry, again, just really want to lift up to our families. You've heard Dr. Valbuena remind us that we are not fully out of COVID and that we need to think about the things that we need to do. Some of you, and we've seen it, you've been saying, so what about monkeypox? What about immunizations that we know aren't happening enough? So we want to invite both Dr. Valbuena and Katina. We probably need to get some more information, and even before our next program is get that out, because we know that people still need to have more information. Because literally in my own family, people who've never had COVID have been, and I was just with several people this morning who were just hospitalized. So I want to use these personal examples for us to be mindful that this is real, and together, as we raise our immunization rate, we can in fact, change things around. So I'm going to kick it back to you, because you have got a really important segment, Reverend Larry, as we talk about change.
Yes. And we're talking about things continuing. One of our continuing responsibilities in terms of using the tools that we have is the vote. I don't know how many remember, but there was a governor in Michigan in my lifetime who actually won the governorship by an average of 1 vote per precinct. One, just one. So your one vote matters. Your one vote can make the difference. And here to tell us how you can register for that vote, how you can learn where to go and cast that vote, when it is you should cast that vote, is none other than Shira Rosa. Shira, are you on? There you are. Shira is here from the Promote the Vote organization, and she's going to bring all of us up to date on how to continue using that powerful tool that we have, the vote. Shira, you've got it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. So my name is Shira Rosa. I'm the Election Protection Director for Promote the Vote. For those of you that aren't familiar with the organization, we are a coalition that works to increase the power of the people in our democracy by ensuring that Michigan has a voting system that works for all of us. So today I'm going to talk about, some of the basics of voting in Michigan, some important upcoming dates, and then I'll also give a preview of what will be on the ballot in Detroit. So I am going to start by sharing my screen. Is this working? Can we see it?
It's working.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about the basics of voting in Michigan. So we'll start with registration. So first of all, in order to vote in Michigan, you have to be registered to vote. So who is eligible to register and vote in Michigan? You're eligible to register and vote if you're a US citizen, if you are a resident of a city or township in Michigan for at least 30 days, or you will be by election day, if you're at least 17 and a half years old and you will be 18 by election day, and if you're not currently serving a sentence in jail or prison. So a little more on that last point. You can register and vote if you're in jail, but you have not yet been sentenced, if you're serving a sentence, but you're not in jail or prison, if you're on probation or parole, but you're not in jail or prison, or if you've already served your sentence and you're no longer in jail or prison. So if you have a felony conviction, it doesn't matter. If you're out of prison, you can register and vote in Michigan. So how do you register to vote? So before October 25th, you have lots of options for registering to vote. You can do so online at mi.gov/vote if you have a valid Michigan driver's license or state ID. And in a few minutes, I'll walk you through that process. You can register at a Secretary of State branch office. You can register at your city or township clerk's office or your county clerk's office. At any state agency that provides public assistance or services to people with disabilities, by mailing in a completed voter registration application, or through a voter registration drive. So after October 25th, and through 8 p.m. on election day, which is November 8th, you only have one option for registering, and that is visiting your city or township clerk's office and providing proof of residency. So how do you check your registration status? How do you check to see if you're registered to vote where you live? You go to mi.gov/vote and click on your voter information. So I am going to share now a new screen. So this right here is the Michigan Voter Information Center. So if you want to check your registration status, you go to your voter information here, you click on it, and then you fill out the information. So you put in your name, your first name, your last name, your month that you were born, the year you were born, your zip code, and then you click search by name. And then, your voter registration information will come up, or it will show that you're not registered. If you want to register online, along the left side here, you can click on register to vote online. And then, you fill out the form and you go through the process. If you want to download and print a form and register by mail, you go along the left side here, you go to voter forms and publications, you click on it, and then it's a little annoying. You have to scroll down for voter registration. There's the English voter registration form. There's a large print version for those who need large print, and then there are several translated versions. So there's Arabic, Bengali, Spanish, and several other languages. All right, I'm going to go. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, can anybody stop you and require you to show your registration when you're going in to vote? Can somebody just stop you as you're walking in, or is it just the election workers? Who can actually ask you for proof?
That's a great question. So it's really, I'll talk a little bit about this a little more later, but when you go to vote, the poll workers ask for your ID. If you have an ID, if you have a photo ID with you, we recommend that you show it to the poll worker. If you have a photo ID with you, you have to show it to the poll worker. If you don't have a photo ID, or you don't have one with you, if you left it in the car, if you left it at home, you can sign a form called an affidavit, basically just saying that, you don't have photo ID or you don't have photo ID with you, and you are who you say you are. And then, the poll worker basically confirms that you're registered to vote in that precinct, and then you can vote a ballot. So the poll workers are the ones who check your registration status.
So just people standing outside can't ask you for proof of registration.
That's right. So, there are sometimes what's called challengers at polling locations, and they can challenge people's right to vote under certain circumstances, but they're supposed to do that by addressing the poll worker. So they're supposed to tell the poll worker, I don't think this person is registered,
Right.
and why. I don't think that's very common, but yes, you're right. It's the poll workers who are supposed to check your registration.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to voting. So in
We have
Michigan,
about 5 minutes left.
you do, okay. So in Michigan, you have several options for voting. You can vote from home before Election Day, you can vote in person before Election Day, or you can vote on Election Day. If you want to vote before Election Day from home, you request your ballot. You can do that online at the Michigan Voter Information Center or by mail. Then you fill out your ballot, put it in the envelope, sign the envelope with your official signature, and return it to your city or township clerk. Importantly, all absentee ballots have to be received by your city or township clerk's office by 8 p.m. on Election Day to count. So we recommend dropping your ballot in the mail no later than October 25th. After October 25th, you can return it to your city or township clerk's office or satellite office or a secure drop box provided by your clerk. If you want to vote before Election Day in person by absentee ballot, you can go to your clerk's office. Detroit currently has 2 locations. There's one on Woodward, one on Grand Boulevard. And then in a few weeks, there are going to be more satellite locations that will open up. You complete an application for an absentee ballot, submit it to the staff. And you complete your ballot, put it in the envelope provided, sign the outside of the envelope with your official signature, and submit it to the staff. Ballots will be available starting September 29th. So if you're, you can go vote in person starting on September 29th. If you're already registered to vote where you live, the deadline to do this, to vote before Election Day in person, is 4 p.m. on Monday, November 7th, which is the day before Election Day. Then, of course, you can vote on Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th. If you're already registered, you have to vote at your polling location. You can find your polling location at mi.gov/vote, the website I just showed you. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. local time. If you're in line by 8 p.m., the polls must stay open for you to vote. And then if you're not registered, like I said, you can register at your city or township clerk's office until 8 p.m. on Election Day. And then once you're registered, you can either vote by absentee ballot at your clerk's office, or you can go to your polling location if there's time. I already covered this about needing an ID to vote, so I will skip it. Where can you get more info? So you can get more information by going to michiganvoting.org, which is an educational website that we have, or you can call 866-OUR-VOTE, which is the nonpartisan election protection hotline. So I will quickly, rather than going through the important dates, I will show you where to find the important dates. And that is, so if you go to michiganvoting.org, this is the website, and you click on important dates, all the key dates are right here. So these are all things that I went over when I, talked about registration deadlines and all of that. You can download, a poster by clicking on that button. You can also, along the side, we have buttons to access resources in Spanish, Arabic, and Bengali. So, if you click on the Spanish version, you can find all that here, translated into Spanish. So I will not go through those. And then the last thing, do I have a few minutes to talk about what's on the ballot in Detroit?
1
minute. Okay. Instead of telling you what's on the ballot in Detroit, what I will do is I will show you how to find it. So if you go to the Michigan Voter Information Center, sorry, 1 second, and you click on what's on the ballot, you can find exactly what is on your ballot. So you go to the election, it's the state general election. You go to the county, which of course is Wayne. The jurisdiction, of course, is Detroit. And then you can choose, your precinct and your ward. You can find that by going to your voter information. And then if you click on it and go to view the ballot, it will show you exactly, what is on your ballot. So you can research it in advance. And there are a few helpful resources if you need more information about what's on the ballot. And those are, I'm gonna skip this. Oh, really quick, make sure to flip your ballot over because there's important races on both sides. If you want more info about what's on your ballot, you can go again where I showed you, mi.gov/vote. You can go to vote411.org, which is the League of Women Voters voter guide. They have information on all the candidates. And then again, for general voting related questions, you can go to 866-OUR-VOTE or michiganvoting.org. Thank you.
That's a phenomenal presentation, Shira.
Thank you.
It really is. You got a great deal in. You helped our listeners find out where they could go to get information. I love the fact that you made it clear that the only people who can ask you to prove that you're a voter are the people with the credentials behind or in the voting place who are authorized to do that. People who are just standing outside campaigning for whatever they're campaigning for, they have no authority to stop us from voting. It's a sacred, continuing duty, and you've made that so clear. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just add one thing. So if you do encounter someone who's trying to stop you from voting or, inappropriately asking you about your registration status or anything like that, call 866-OUR-VOTE and report it. We're monitoring all the calls that come in through that hotline, and we work to address voter suppression wherever and whenever it occurs.
You all are a gift to our community. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
Maybe we'll be able to get you back on that show just before the election to remind people again that they can still go vote.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shira. And we are about to switch gears just a little bit, because on the ballot this year, actually, are candidates for Detroit Public School Board election, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about some other aspects of election. And I'm going to ask my partner, Jametta, if she would come on. Because I know Jametta, she and I grew up together in this struggle
Just last
for
year.
quality education.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask Jametta if she would introduce our two next phenomenal guests and get us started in talking about this critical aspect of our community education and the schools. Jametta, you got it.
Yeah, thank you. And as we know, in the midst of what has motivated us to all come together is not only our health, but our focus on our kids. And to know, as you said at the beginning, that our parents are trying to figure this out, but parents are us. I mean, we're grandparents, aunties, all of us. So there really is no separation. And you know what? You can have 6 different initials behind your name, PhD, MD, whatever, Rev, right?
That's
But
right.
you're still trying to function to keep you and your children healthy, figure out the digital divide. And now we're in a stage with our schools that we've had a return to school, yet we still are hearing COVID endemic. We've had a huge learning loss. We know there's huge grief and loss too. So we're super excited to be able to have 2 of our really important leaders in the metro area come and speak. One we all know, which is Dr. Vitti with the Detroit Public School Community District, but also joining us because we got to make sure that we have all voices of all of our major school systems speaking with us, is to have Cassandra Washington, who is the Chief Operating Officer for UPrep. And so what we'll do, Cassandra, is start with you. If you could give us, we've got about a total of 20 minutes for this segment. I'd like for you to take about 7 to 8 minutes, and then we're going to shift to Dr. Vitti. And then we'd like to be able to open up to have some questions that Larry is going to do. So I'm going to hand it to you. If you would kind of start us off about now that we're back to school, how is UPrep moving to address the issues of learning loss in particular? And if you could begin with that, and I'm going to go on mute and let you take it from here.
Okay, well, thank you first of all for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here. And so the school year is starting off very well. We have ended our year of blended learning last school year and have returned fully in person this year. And so one of the things that we're focused on is ensuring the health and safety and well-being of our students and our families, as well as continuing the equitable education, access to education, I should say, including resources to support differentiated learning. We have core values that we truly believe in that are centered around culture and community that supports conditions to reintroduce the joy of learning now that we're at the endemic. And so one of the things I want to share with you as we go through and we really talk about what is the reality and the lived experience, for our families and for our students. I just want to take a minute to kind of unpack what we're doing around our strategies for ensuring a healthy and safe environment, as well as what we're doing to address the disruption of the learning process for our students. So, so as I said, the health and safety and well-being of our scholars and our crew is our #1 priority. Within UPrep schools, we refer to our young learners, all learners, as scholars. We believe that they have the genius within, and we are here to help to create the conditions that bring out that curiosity of our scholars. And we refer to our employees as crew. We visualize ourselves in a boat and we're all rowing together. And it's important that we are all rowing in the same direction, to ensure that we create the conditions for our students to be able to be contributors in their post-secondary college and career advancement. So COVID is still here. Much like the doctor prior to who came on, that really talked about now that we're going through towards the endemic of COVID, but it's still very much prevalent in our community. So while the CDC has relaxed some of their requirements, we believe and continue will take a multi-layered proactive approach to mitigating the spread of COVID-19. So throughout our school community, we are doing universal masking. We know through research and evidence and medical evidence that it is a critical public health tool for preventing the spread of COVID-19. We ensure that we have masks at all of our schools. We have invested in the masks that you see here, the K95 and those surgical masks. We also do a daily health screening. The health and well-being of our crew is pivotal. And so to ensure that within our community and an ecosystem of how we connect and move with one another, that we create an environment that contributes to a healthy space and circle for effective teaching and learning to take place. So we do a daily health screen. We also have partnered with Wayne Health, where we have an on-site vaccination and testing clinic that is at one of our schools that is every week. So it's offered weekly to all of our scholars, families, crew. They do everything from testing to vaccination to blood pressure tests. We're continuing our enhanced and deep cleaning. We're ensuring that we have the relevant and right PPE on site for our scholars and our crew. We also are managing our positive cases and exposures. It's important to have our finger on the pulse of the health of our community. And so with that, we are engaging in best practices around positive case tracing, quarantining and isolation guidelines. And then lastly, the health and safety building enhancements. So, and we know that research shows to have effective teaching and learning in a classroom environment that we need to create the conditions for that. And so with that, we have invested not only in PPE, but modifications to our HVAC system, as well as installation of refillable water stations. So our strategies, this is a lot of conversation around learning loss. And so what we look at it is that, learning loss is from a deficit perspective. We believe that the phrase implies that students didn't learn anything at all when schools were closed in March 2020, and it just shifted the landscape of the learning environment. It also implies that not only did students not learn anything, they didn't retain the information they previously learned. Well, we have evidence to know that, our scholars have been able to demonstrate, while there was some disruption in the learning process for the years that we were out and doing virtual learning through the pandemic, that they have been able to retain the information that they previously learned. We believe that it's more accurate to say that students' learning trajectories have shifted over the past 2 years, and they didn't stop developing. They actually really retained information as well as built a new muscle of learning and honed new skills, including flexibility, resilience, and creativity by engaging in virtual learning. And so research shows that academic, social, and emotional learning are in fact intertwined and interwoven. So what you see here on this slide are the highlight of the 3 things that we really focused and targeted on as what we were doing for disruption of learning as well as SEL. And so just very quickly, I know time is shared here. Number 1, we really focused on academics and social emotional learning. So we built that through our summer school project so that we could continue developing the learning process for our scholars. We invested in math, literacy, and science curriculum. And we also highlighted and lifted chess and academic games to get that young brain curious again, and being able to experience learning process in different ways. And then we also have SEL and wellness intervention. We were able to be responsive to the current climate and environment, and we added to our staff. particular positions that will help with the culture, and SEL and the emotional development of our young children. And also, as we come back fully in person, be able to see where those scholars are. And so we added attendance agents and mentors. We believe in restorative practices within our organization, as well as an investment in professional development for our teachers around PBL and SEL. And then lastly, an investment in technology. Of anything that the pandemic has showed us is just where we are disproportionately affected when there is a crisis. And we saw that there was a digital divide. The pandemic had a lot of, unfortunately, challenges, but it also had some, it sparked innovation. And so we were able to close the gap real quickly with one-to-one on Chromebooks. So, and software.
Thank you. I know that you've got a wonderful, this is phenomenal information, but we do want to share the time.
Yes.
So if you can stand by, we are going to have a couple of questions, but I wanted to make sure that even though Dr. Vitti is not going to be here, he's just like Hallmark, and he sent the very best. And, one of the things that getting old affords you is you get to see phenomenal professionals like Crystal Wilson get started in their careers and then blow up to become the lead communication officer for the school system of the city of Detroit. Crystal Wilson, welcome. You got it.
Thank you, Reverend Simmons, for that glowing introduction. I'm always privileged and honored to speak on behalf of the district, on behalf of our elected school board and Dr. Vitti. As you know, we were one of the districts who reached out to Governor Whitmer when the pandemic first started and said, this is the right thing to do, close schools. And that's when this forum was born, so that we can continue to communicate effectively with our families and teachers and students and provide information. And so fast forward 2.5 years, we find ourselves emerging out of the pandemic while still dealing with some of the residuals, with a sharp focus on academic achievement, attendance, and emotional, mental, and behavioral health. And so under the theme of challenge, love, challenged, and prepared, the district is examining the data closely and looking at the correlation between attendance and academic achievement. We all know that when students aren't in school, they cannot learn. And so the reasons why students are in school range from transportation, transient, homelessness, or instability at the home level, some issues with the home with families, or either they're dealing with some of the residuals that COVID left for us, including the loss of loved ones, feeling lost. I talked to a 11th grader today at the school. It's our day of peace. And he has a very unique experience because he was in 8th grade when the pandemic hit. Very different experience of going back into the classroom in person as an 11th grader from an 8th grader. So Dr. Vitti is very aware of the gaps that we have to fill. And so one of the things that our board did early on this school year was roll out a literacy plan, because we know MSTEP scores just came out. And when you look at the correlation between attendance and where we land with literacy, we know that if the students don't get to school so that they can get the lessons and then it's time to take the assessment, there's a huge gap there. So we rolled out the literacy plan for K through 12th graders to address the learning gaps that we've seen in the assessments and to be able to allocate the proper resources. The one thing that we are also doing is making sure that our teachers have the correct professional development so that they're able to be supported in the classroom. Because we're talking to our families today, I just want to encourage our families to get in touch with your child's teacher and to build that relationship and that bond, because we know it's been difficult through the screen to bond. Now that we're back in person, go to the school, engage in parent-teacher conference, understand how the teacher is helping your student to accelerate and close the learning gaps. The other thing I'd like to say is that we're in this together. The one thing that the pandemic did in certain areas, it leveled the playing field for students. So we're no longer the lowest performing district or the lowest performing city. Everybody is experiencing the gap. But I will say what we're doing at DPSCD, looking at the data with the foundation that Dr. Vitti put in place with the reform work, we are starting to see early indicators that we're outpacing the state and average achievement scores. So that gives us hope because we know that the curriculum that we put in place, it is working. It is, with time and space and opportunity, going to get the students where they need to be and back on track. The other thing that I would say in the space of families and volunteerism, families, get involved at your school, volunteer to be a noon hour aide. We have the Let's Read program, volunteer to help the students in K2 read and go through the tenets so that they can get back on track. There's very specific things that the community can do to help support our students in their learning. At that point, I see Dr. Vitti has joined, so I'm just going to pass over the baton. And Dr. Vitti, I was just telling the families about the literacy plan, the importance of attendance, and the importance of mental health.
All right, well,
Dr.
good
Vitti.
morning.
Good morning, Doc. Excuse me, just a second.
Yeah, sure.
And she's done an excellent job, but we want to give people an opportunity to ask you questions. So
Okay.
if you could limit your remarks to about 5 minutes, then we want to open up so people can ask questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do even better. I'll just say, good afternoon, everyone. I just ran from another meeting, an in-person meeting. So I just grabbed the computer and got on here. So good to be with you. We are really excited about this school year. It feels, I guess I'll call it the new normal. I think our teachers are just back sort of in the groove of teaching and learning. The students seem to be settled in to getting ready for a real post-pandemic type of consistent learning situation. I would say well over 90% of our schools have an increase of enrollment. Our attendance is already much better than last year. We're excited. This is our year to sort of get back to the regular work of teaching and learning and raising student achievement. And all signs point in a positive direction regarding enrollment, attendance, staffing is strong. So we're just excited to try to get back to where we were in 18-19 before the pandemic hit with raising student achievement. So I'll take the questions from there.
You know, I'm going to toss this over to Jametta. I just want the audience to appreciate that the commitment to education and communicating with you is so significant that the chief operating officer of one district and the superintendent of DPSCD have taken time out of all the pressures on their schedule to join us today and to answer the questions which you have submitted. Jametta, why don't you share some of those questions with our two guests?
Certainly. And I think both of you touched on them. One of the things that was remarkable, Cassandra, you lifted up that remote learning, while stressful, also helped build resiliency. And different kind of social emotional relationships and learning happen. But a question, and this has to do with social emotional development. Could both of you talk about in what ways specifically families have the resources to help them address either issues of grief and loss, or in the cases of children who have, quite frankly, slipped behind and are emotionally distraught? What are the resources that families need to know about that you're offering now?
Okay. All right, I'll start. Hi, Dr. Vitti. We have actually invested in, through our medical plan, EAC, which allows for our employees and their families to be able to have access free of charge to any type of counseling and therapeutic sessions. Within our school environment, we have built a circle of social emotional learning. We recently were awarded a grant, a NOVA grant that allows for a therapist to come in and work with our teachers as well as our families. So they have access to be able to get the necessary supports that they need, depending on their various situations, that helps walk them through grief, help walk them through any type of mental or physical challenges that they may be having, which is part of our community and free of charge to them.
Thank you. Dr. Vitti?
Sure. So, I've said it a number of times, there aren't very many positives that have come from the pandemic. But one was COVID relief funding. And it was the first time I felt like DPSCD was equitably funded to address not only the typical challenges of a large urban school district, but the challenges that were exacerbated because of the pandemic. And through those funds, we were able to invest much more in mental health support for our children. And so throughout the district, through 5 contracted partners, we were able to provide tier 2 and tier 3 mental health services to any children. So when I say tier 2 and tier 3, typically teachers, guidance counselors, social workers will work with students on, day-to-day challenges that they're facing from a social emotional level, teasing, bullying, issues, communication issues between friends or those type of things. But when we start getting into some deeper issues, then we move into tier 2 and tier 3, which is one-on-one small group therapy. And all of our students from grades 3 to 12 take a mental health screener or a wellness survey that looks at adverse child effects. And so you're looking at violence in the home, just general trauma, COVID related to your question, or outside. And based on those questions and the responses, we can identify students that may need that tier 2 and tier 3 support. We need the support of our families, and I think we're going to do a better job of this year of promoting the sign-off or the consent to allow for that one-on-one and small group therapy to exist or to happen. So that's at the school site. In addition to that, we continue to have a mental health hotline where any student or any parent can utilize that resource after school hours or on the weekends, just to talk about any issues that they're experiencing due to COVID or beyond that.
There was a great thing that popped up on the chat. Both Cassandra, Dr. Vitti, if you would, or Crystal, if we could get the link to some of the resources that you have available from the full continuum of either prevention through obviously the social, emotional, and mental health resources. The other thing that I know Reverend Larry's been really involved in this, we know how absenteeism profoundly impacts learning, bonding, all of that. Could both of you talk about what strategies that you are implementing and maybe even helping families better understand how important absenteeism is to the growth and development of their children and what we need to do about it?
All right, well, we have established a program that is an outreach to all of our families, where we actually have invested in additional positions that will have a caseload of families. We are monitoring through our technology any absenteeism, but we're setting ourselves up to be structuring it to be proactive, and really during the the beginning of school. We're talking to all our families about the direct correlation between their child's attendance in school and their learning outcomes, and putting in place supports that are able to really get at the root cause of what may be the challenges that are impacting students of coming to school and removing those barriers. And so working with those families one-on-one, and understanding exactly what we could do to support them, because we want to bring everybody along. We know that if a child is not in school, they can't learn. And a lot of times we have saw through our experiences and our data that there are things that are roadblocks to them that as a community, we can actually get in front of and remove and help to reignite the child's attendance and a learning process. So we share with them specific data points. Enrollment is one thing, but it's really about, when our young scholars are actually in seat and are they learning. And so we monitor and share that information with the parents, and also get the parents and guardians engaged in their child's learning process so they can understand and see.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for lifting up that last part. Because to move and support our children, we've got to be engaged deeply with our parents. Dr. Vitti.
Sure. So not surprisingly, last year's student achievement data really demonstrated the difference in achievement between those students that were not chronically absent and those that were. So what we had an opportunity to disaggregate our data with ELA and math on MSTEP, and we saw a significant difference between achievement, obviously based on attendance. And I think one of the most important things to realize is that coming to school every day really does matter from a student achievement point of view. That we are paid to educate children, and I feel that we are doing a much better job with our curriculum, with our staffing, our training, and just overall commitment to student achievement, that we're doing that better. But we have to have the commitment of the family to have children attend regularly so that we both are in unison in our commitment to student achievement. And so last year was just a very difficult year around attendance because of COVID, and more than anything else, the COVID protocols regarding quarantining. If you were a close contact, you had to be home for 14 straight days, and you may not even be sick. And then that was just dropped to 10, as we got closer to the spring. But before then, we had the surge in January where we were online. So, although we were in school for 90% of the year, it was disrupted because of all of that. So we understand why the chronic absenteeism rates were so high. But, going into this year, we're not close contacting for COVID. We're not COVID testing. So naturally, our attendance rate should be better because we're not sending unsick students, making up that word, at home. We will continue to reach out to families when we start seeing the attendance drop. And I think as a system, we're becoming more systemic with providing the resources to families that sometimes affect attendance. So help with DTE electricity bills, eviction, moves, moving from one part of the city to the other, and working out transportation. So what we're moving toward is more of a systemic approach around health hubs. So families have more access to mental health, medical and dental support, but also just general resources for families based on the neighborhood high school 12 feeder patterns that we have throughout the city.
And in fact, that hub approach, that holistic ecological model is really exciting, isn't it, Reverend Larry?
It is.
We all know that schools can't function in an island. We have to connect the dots between health and education. And in fact, make sure that we're addressing what some people call social determinants of health, but it's really social economic determinants of education. So we thank both of you as our educational leaders, understanding that. And as Reverend Larry said, navigating what have been an unprecedented point in history. And as the old folks will say, it ain't over yet. So stay with us in this regard as we continue to build up and educate and keep our families healthy. Reverend Larry.
Thank you both for taking time out of what we know is a demanding schedule here at the beginning of school. And we look forward to having you back as we proceed through the year to keep our families and students and families and parents in touch with the phenomenal services. And I am so thrilled to hear about the holistic approach that both of you are taking, because we know that the problems that you are addressing in school, they'll start in school, they're brought to school. So thank you so much. And we'll look forward to talking to you soon. We have to move to our close following our announcements.
Right.
God
Thank
bless.
you.
See you soon. So I just want to say, for those of you who have the pleasure of seeing Miss Nikki online, right? That's Nikki right there. That's the lady in the orange. Nikki is a trooper. Nikki is sick. Nikki was on this morning in our prep. She was covered over in a hoodie and she had the towel next to her nose and she didn't know she could hang. But when the bell rung and the camera came on, look who's here. Nikki.
Thank you so much, Larry.
All around Detroit.
Thank you, Larry. So as Larry said, I'm going to do the closing announcements for us today. These are some awesome events going on in Detroit that we would like you guys to tune into. To start us off, I am going to announce for CHAS Center on Thursdays between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. through October 27th to 2022. They have CHAS Mercado. It's located at their center, which is at 5635 West 4th Street, Detroit, Michigan, 48209. If you're looking for more information, please visit the website. The link is listed on here. But just so you know, the CHAS Mercado is a vibrant hub of community resources, local vendors, and urban growers located in the heart of Southwest Detroit. So come with friends and family to enjoy locally grown fruits and vegetables available for sale. Some of the stuff that are available for sale are fruits, vegetables, food tastings and recipes, community resources, kids activities, and they accept all payment methods, credit, debit, cash, EBT, and WIC, Project Fresh coupons. To continue on, our friends at Urban Neighborhood Initiatives are inviting us. They're hosting a Healthy Homes Community Fair this Saturday, September 24th. Join the City of Detroit led Safe Housing Program as they announced their partnership with Urban Neighborhood Initiatives. The event, they will have free food, music, live Zumba classes, petting zoo, face painting, and community resources. I am so excited to hear. I was really looking forward to go. Unfortunately, as Larry said, I'm sick, so I won't be able to, but I really am looking forward to seeing those pictures. At the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, one announcement that we have is on October 7th, we are hosting, from 6 to 11 p.m., we are hosting a Puerto Rico disaster relief fundraiser. We all saw what happened on the news. If you haven't, please tune in. There will be music, dancing, food, and drinks. So come and support a great cause. It's all going to help with that relief. At the Detroit Public Television, they want us to join them live and in person for a community event with partners WDET 101.9 FM, the Divine Nine, Association for the Study of African American Life and History, Detroit, exploring Detroit's history in the context of Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s new series, Making Black America, premiering nationally October 4th on PBS. This event takes place on September 27th at 7 p.m. at Wayne State University's Community Arts Auditorium. The event is free, but RSVP is required. So we can drop the link in the chat for you guys if you're interested. It should be there. Please look out if you are interested in joining. Next, we have an announcement from the Detroitparent Network. Tonight, September 22nd from 5:30 to 6:30 at the Detroitparent Network. They're hosting a munch and learn about DPN careers. If you or someone you know is currently looking for employment and wants to learn about potential opportunities, make sure to come out. Last but not least, our partners at 482 Forward are hosting a school board candidate forum on October 20th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. The location is currently not listed, but if you're interested in attending, please make sure to scan that QR code and register. That's all from me. I can pass it on to Jametta. Thank you.
You know, what can I say after what you just said, right? So I think very much the way that Reverend Larry was reminding us, you stepped that up. We're so excited to have you. And for those of us who are a little bit over age 25, right? We so appreciate having the younger folks being a part of this. Our goal with this coalition is to build up community voices and for everyone to know that they have a voice and to empower that. And it's so important that we are constantly doing this across, within, and mixed up in generations to build the lens of equity and power that we need. But it occurs to me, you know what we haven't done? We haven't done this in a while. So we're going to ask everybody to please come on screen, because this is how we do simply what we do with the coalition. We are a collective, all here to rock it together for you. Any other words from the wise and the wonderful Larry?
Listen, it's been a blast. We back, baby. We back. Getting ready. We gonna rock this house once a month.
Absolutely.
Come on, join us.
Join us October the 20th.
Town Hall.
There we go. We'll be back. And we'll be with you. Everyone, peace. Stay safe.